The glass doesn't fall, he sweeps it. That is the part Maya will remember longest, not the sound of it hitting the marble floor, not the 30 people going silent around the table, not even the way the candlelight caught the pieces as they scattered. What she will remember is the deliberateness of it. The way David's hand moved not in anger, not in accident, but in the slow, calculated arc of a man who has decided, in this room in front of these people, that tonight is the night he stops pretending. The crystal was her mother's, carried from home in a suitcase wrapped inside a church dress, because it was the only thing her mother pressed into her hands at the airport 7 years ago and said, "Take this, so you remember where you come from." It is in 40 pieces on a restaurant floor now. David straightens his jacket, adjusts his cuffs, looks around the table at his colleagues, his board members, his investors, the wives who have smiled at Maya for years over canapés and never once learned her last name, and he says, in a voice so composed it has clearly been rehearsed, "This is why I don't bring her to these things. 7 years and she still doesn't know how to behave in a room like this." Laughter moves through the table like a current, not everyone, but enough. Brianna, seated 3 chairs down in a dress that cost more than Maya's first month's rent in Atlanta, looks at her plate. She already knew this was coming. She has known for weeks. That is the specific burden of being the other woman. You are always slightly ahead of the wife and always pretending you aren't. Maya does not look at Brianna. She looks at David. One tear breaks from her left eye, just one. Involuntary, everything after it is a choice. She picks up her clutch. She does not speak. She does not explain. She walks out of that private dining room with her heels clicking on the marble stairs, and she does not look back at a single face. Outside, the night air finds her on the sidewalk. She stands there for 4 seconds, not to collect herself. She is already collected, but to make sure she is certain. She has never been more certain of anything. She opens her phone. She scrolls to a name she saved 3 weeks ago and has not yet used. She presses call. 2 rings. Patricia Wells. This is Maya Harrington. Her voice does not waver by a single degree. I'm ready to move forward. Hi viewers, if you have ever been humiliated by the one person who was supposed to protect you, drop a fire in the comments right now and subscribe. Because what Maya does with that phone call is going to change absolutely everything. She ends the call. She looks up at the second floor window, warm light, silhouettes, a dinner party that has already moved on without her. She turns, she walks to the car. She does not look back once. Not because she is broken, because she is done. She does not sleep that night. She does not need to. By 6 a.m. she is already dressed. By 8 a.m. she is in the car. By 9 a.m. she is sitting across from Patricia Wells in a conference room on the 11th floor, and Patricia does not offer condolences and Maya does not want them. Patricia is already working when Maya arrives, folder open, reading glasses pushed up on her head, a legal pad covered in handwriting that moves fast and takes no prisoners. She looks up, studies Maya's face for exactly 2 seconds and gets directly to it. "Your husband registered an LLC in your name in 2021, she says. "Without your knowledge, the signature on file is not yours." Maya looks at the document. She has written her own signature 10,000 times. The one on that page is close, practiced, deliberate, almost convincing. It is not hers. "There is a secondary bank account," Patricia continues. 4 years old, routed through a holding company in Delaware. The deposit patterns correlate directly with 3 rental properties you managed personally. She slides a second document across the table. "The income from your work funded an account you were never told existed." The room is very quiet. Maya looks at the numbers. She thinks about the rental property in Decatur she managed for 14 months while David was traveling, the contractors she coordinated, the tenant disputes she handled, the maintenance calls she took at 11 p.m. because David's phone was always, somehow, unavailable. She thinks about the investor proposals she proofread at the kitchen table after midnight, the client dinners she orchestrated, the 7 years of invisible work that kept the foundation solid, while David built the visible parts on top of it and put his name on all of them. She thinks about a crystal glass on a restaurant floor. How much, she asks. Patricia tells her. Maya exhales once, slow and controlled, then she looks up. What do I need to do? Patricia closes the folder. Keep the routine completely normal. Don't move any assets. Don't tell anyone, not a friend, not a sister, no one. Give me 6 weeks. She pauses. Can you do that? Maya thinks about 30 people at a dinner table. About Brianna looking at her plate. About 7 years of staying quiet and adjusting and making herself smaller so a man could feel larger. I've been doing it for 7 years, she says. 6 weeks is nothing. She keeps the routine the way a surgeon keeps steady hands, not because it is easy, but because the cost of losing focus is too high. Every morning at 6 a.m. she makes David's coffee. She asks about his meetings. She listens to his answers with the expression of a woman who has no particular plans of her own. When Brianna's name comes up in conversation, and it comes up more now, casually, the way people mention someone they believe is safe to mention, Maya nods and says nothing and notes the timestamp in her mind. At night after David is asleep, she sits at the kitchen table with a legal pad. Single lamp above the stove. House completely quiet. She writes dates, amounts, incidents, the full architecture of 7 years organized by year, cross-referenced against the documents Patricia's team is building in parallel. Her handwriting is small and precise. She fills 11 pages in the first 2 weeks. This is the same table where she served his breakfast every morning for 7 years, and believed that consistency was the same thing as security. It is also, as it turns out, an excellent place to dismantle everything a man thought was safely hidden. In the 4th week, something almost breaks her. She is in David's office, not searching. She stopped needing to search weeks ago, returning a book she borrowed when she sees it. A photograph on his desk she has never noticed before. David and Brianna at what appears to be a company retreat in Colorado. Laughing. His hand on her back the way his hand used to rest on hers in the early years when he was still trying. The photograph has a date stamp in the corner, 14 months ago. Maya stands there for a long moment. She feels the grief trying to rise, real, specific grief, not for David, but for the version of herself that spent 14 months after that date trying harder, adjusting more, making the kitchen warmer, wondering what she was doing wrong. She was not doing anything wrong. She was just not looking at the right evidence. She sets the book down. She walks back to the kitchen. She picks up her legal pad and she writes the date of the photograph at the top of a new page. Then she keeps writing. Patricia calls on a Thursday morning at the end of week 5. We have everything, she says. Maya sets down her coffee cup. Everything. 39 documents, a forensic accountant who will testify, 2 witnesses from inside his own company, and a federal attorney who has confirmed the LLC signature constitutes fraud. A brief pause. Maya, this is not a divorce case anymore. This is fraud, asset concealment, and forged documentation. He cannot make this go away quietly. Maya looks out the kitchen window. The garden is still winter bare, branches dark against a gray sky. She thinks about the night she stood on the sidewalk outside the restaurant and made the call that started all of this. She thinks about 30 people at a dinner table. She thinks about a crystal glass in 40 pieces. Then we file, she says. Monday morning, Patricia confirms. That evening Maya cooks dinner. She sets the table. She sits across from David and asks about his week and listens to his answers and refills his water glass when it gets low. David talks about a deal closing in March and a board meeting he is not looking forward to. He does not look at her with guilt. He looks at her the way people look at furniture, present, familiar, unremarkable. She smiles at the right moments. She clears the plates. She says good night at 10:30. She sleeps better than she has in months. If you have ever had to stay completely calm while holding something that was about to change everything, comment the word ready, because Maya is about to collect 7 years of what she is owed, and not one person in that house sees it coming. David finds out on a Friday at 2:17 in the afternoon. Gerald, his attorney, sees the filing come through and calls David's cell phone 4 times in 9 minutes. David is in a lunch meeting 2 blocks from his office. He steps out on the 4th call. Gerald says 3 sentences. David comes home 3 hours early. Maya is in the kitchen slicing an apple when she hears the front door. She does not turn around. She finishes what she is doing, even sections, the way she always does, and then she sets down the knife and turns. David is standing in the doorway with his jacket still on, and his face doing something she has never quite seen it do before. All the control is still there, the surface still intact, but something underneath it is moving the way ice moves before it cracks slowly at first, then all at once. You filed, he says. I filed, she confirms. He crosses the kitchen in 4 steps and stops in front of her. He is 7 inches taller, and he has always known exactly how to use that, the positioning, the lowered voice, the specific geometry of making a woman feel small in a room she runs. The technique is so practiced, it is probably automatic by now. It produces nothing today. Maya looks up at him from the same height she has always been, and does not move back 1 inch. You don't know what you're doing, he says. I know about the LLC, she says. I know about the Delaware account. I know the signature on file is not mine. I know about 39 documents that are now part of a federal fraud filing. She pauses. And I know about Brianna. I have known about Brianna for considerably longer than you think. Something moves across his face, just briefly. Then the control snaps back into place like a man catching himself before he falls. We can handle this privately, he says. We are handling it, Maya replies, just not privately. She picks up the apple slices. She walks out of the kitchen. She leaves him standing alone in the room she spent 7 years making feel like home, which is now, as of 11:43 that morning, a documented marital asset under active federal review. He tries 4 things, none of them work. Week 1, Brianna calls. Maya does not expect this. She is in the car outside the nursing school campus. She re-enrolled 3 days after filing, first available slot, Tuesday morning, the same nursing program she folded into a drawer in year 2, and told herself there was always going to be time for when her phone rings with a number she does not recognize. She almost lets it go to voicemail. Something makes her answer. This is Brianna. A pause filled with the specific weight of a woman who knows she has no right to ask for anything and is calling anyway. I know you don't want to hear from me. Maya says nothing, she waits. He's planning to move assets offshore before the court can freeze them, Brianna says. Her voice is steady, but her words come fast, like someone reading from a script before they lose the nerve. He started the process Wednesday. Gerald told him it was legal in the short window before the freeze order lands. 1 beat of silence. "I thought you should know," Brianna says. Maya looks straight through the windshield at the campus entrance. Students moving through the doors. An ordinary Tuesday morning that is about to become something else entirely. "Thank you," she says. She hangs up. She calls Patricia. The freeze order is expedited and lands by Thursday morning with 11 hours to spare. The offshore transfer is blocked completely. Gerald's strategy collapses before it begins. Week 2, charm. David appears at her bedroom door on a Sunday with coffee and an apology built from the right words in the wrong order. His voice carries the warmth she remembers from the early years, close enough to real that a different version of her might have reached for it. This version accepts the coffee, sets it on the counter, and goes back to her textbook. Week 3, pressure. Gerald sends a letter suggesting Maya's immigration status could be complicated by certain business arrangements. Patricia responds in 48 hours with a federal attorney's written confirmation and files Gerald's letter as Exhibit 41. The attempt costs David more than it costs Maya. Week 4, mutual friends. 2 calls within 4 days, both using language so similar it could have been scripted, both suggesting she is being rash, that David is fundamentally good, that adults resolve these things privately. Maya listens completely to both calls without interrupting once. She hangs up. She texts Patricia, 2 witness contacts, logging both. By the end of week 4, Gerald calls Patricia. He wants to settle. Patricia calls Maya immediately. "Conference room," Maya says before Patricia finishes the sentence. "Neutral building, not his office, not a restaurant," she pauses, "and make sure the east-facing windows are in his eyeline." Patricia is quiet for a moment. "You've been thinking about this." "I've been thinking about everything," Maya says. "For 6 weeks, for 7 years, pick one." The conference room on the 14th floor of Patterson and Wells has floor-to-ceiling east-facing windows. And at 10 in the morning in April, the light comes in hard and flat, and there is no seat on David's side of the table where the sun is not directly in his eyes. Maya is already there when he arrives. Black dress, both hands resting open on the table in front of her. Posture that takes up the full width of her chair, not aggressive, not performative, just entirely and quietly present. Like a woman who has decided exactly how much space she is going to occupy and is occupying every inch of it without apology. David sits across from her with Gerald beside him. He glances at the windows. He puts on his sunglasses after 30 seconds. Maya watches him do it and says nothing. Gerald opens. 6 minutes. A proposal structured to sound generous until you hold it against the full asset disclosure, at which point it covers roughly 40% of what the documents support. Gerald delivers it with the smooth confidence of a man who charges $900 an hour and has never once been in a room with Patricia Wells. Patricia opens her folder. She speaks for 11 minutes without raising her voice once. She places documents on the table in a sequence that is not accidental: the LLC registration, the Delaware account statements, the forensic accounting report, the fraudulent signature analysis, the federal attorney's letter, the witness statements. Each page lands on the mahogany surface with a quiet finality, one after another. Like a case being built in real time in front of the man, it is being built against. The last document is the photograph from his desk. Colorado, 14 months ago, his hand on Brianna's back, date stamp in the lower right corner clearly visible. It is not legally relevant. Patricia places it on the table anyway, because some things are not about law. They are about a man understanding, completely and without exit, exactly how much the woman across from him has seen and how long she has been seeing it. The room goes completely still. David looks at the photograph. The sunglasses come off. He sets them on the table beside the document, and for the first time since this all began, the careful architecture of his composure shows its age, small fractures, barely visible, the face of a man who built his entire strategy on the assumption that Maya was not paying attention. He looks up at her. She looks back. She does not speak. She does not need to. Everything that needed to be said is already on that table in front of him. Every dinner, every proposal, every client she charmed, every document she signed, every morning she woke up in a country that was not hers and chose to stay and build and keep going. All of it documented, all of it numbered, all of it witnessed, all of it assigned a value that Gerald's opening offer did not come within 40% of matching. Gerald leans over, speaks quietly. David listens, his jaw tightens once. Then he nods slowly. "We'll need 3 days," Gerald says. "You have 2, Patricia replies. He signs on a Monday. Patricia calls at 11:52 a.m. 2 words, it's done. Maya is standing on the steps of the nursing school campus when the call comes, about to walk into her second week of fundamentals of patient care. The April sun is warm on her face. A student holds the door open nearby, waiting, and Maya holds up one finger one moment, and stands there on those steps, and lets Patricia's 2 words land fully before she responds. "Thank you," she says, "for everything." She ends the call. She walks through the door. She sits in the 3rd row. She opens her notebook, navy blue, her name written inside the cover in her own handwriting, her name, not his, the one her mother gave her before she ever crossed an ocean for anyone, and she writes the date at the top of the page. She does not miss a single word of the lecture. That evening she drives home to a house that is now legally, completely, officially hers. She parks in the driveway and sits for a moment looking at the front door the way she has learned to sit with moments that matter, fully present, not rushing toward the next thing. The foyer is quiet when she walks in. The chandelier is on. The marble floor where a crystal glass once broke into pieces too small to recover is clean and empty and catches the light the way it always has, warm, permanent, indifferent to everything that has happened on top of it. She sets down her keys. She stands in the center of the room. She lets herself feel the full weight of 7 years for exactly 60 seconds, the sacrifice, the silence, the legal pad at midnight, the photograph in the desk drawer, the one tear she could not stop at a restaurant where 30 people laughed. 60 seconds, no more. Then she walks to the kitchen, puts on the kettle, and opens her textbook to chapter 3. 8 months later, she walks into Greenwich Medical Center for her first shift with her name on the badge. Not his name, hers. The hospital is 20 minutes from the house. She takes the same route every morning, coffee in the travel mug, the specific quiet of early roads before the world fully wakes. She has come to love this drive the way you love something that belongs entirely to you. No performance required. No audience. Just the road and the coffee and the morning and her own name waiting for her on the other end of it. She finished the program in the top 8% of her cohort. Dr. Ose wrote her recommendation letter and used the word exceptional twice. Patricia sent flowers. Her mother called from home and cried the full length of the call, and Maya stood in her kitchen and let her, because some tears are not grief, they are arrival. On her 3rd week, she is in the corridor outside room 412, reviewing a patient chart when she hears a familiar voice at the nurse's station behind her. Unhurried, confident. The voice of a man who has moved through rooms his entire life expecting them to rearrange around his comfort. She does not turn around immediately. She finishes reading the chart. She makes the note she needs to make. She closes the folder. Then she turns. David is at the nurse's station with a woman Maya does not recognize, not Brianna, someone new, someone who does not yet know what Maya knows. He is wearing the gray coat he bought in Milan. He looks exactly the same. People like David always look exactly the same. He sees her at the same moment she turns. The recognition moves across his face in stages, confusion, then adjustment, then something she has never seen there before and will not spend time naming. Something that lives in the space between regret and the specific discomfort of a man confronted by the full and undeniable size of what he threw away. Maya looks at him. She does not smile and she does not harden. She looks at him the way you look at a chapter you have already finished, present in the memory, absent from the life. She nods once. Then she turns and walks down the corridor with her badge catching the light and her name facing outward and her footsteps even and unhurried, and she does not look back. Not because she is angry, not because she is performing for anyone, but because there is a patient in room 408 who needs her, and she has somewhere important to be. The woman in the gray dress who stood crying in a foyer while 30 people laughed is not in this corridor. She was never going to stay there forever. She was always going to become this. She thinks about her mother's glass sometimes. Not with grief anymore, with something closer to understanding. Her mother pressed that glass into her hands at an airport 7 years ago and said, "Take this, so you remember where you come from." Maya carried it across an ocean and unwrapped it in a house she thought was home, and it shattered on a restaurant floor while 30 people decided it was funny. But here is what she knows now, standing fully on the other side of all of it. The glass was not what her mother gave her. The glass was only ever the container. What her mother actually gave her was the part that did not shatter, the part that stood on a sidewalk at night and made the call, the part that sat at a kitchen table at midnight and filled 11 pages, the part that walked into a conference room and let 39 documents say everything that 7 years of silence never could. That part did not break on any floor. That part does not break. She is not grateful for what David did. She does not owe that version of generosity to anyone, and she is not going to manufacture it for the sake of a clean story. But she is clear about what it cost and what it built, and what she turned out to have been all along, before the house, before the last name, before the country that was not hers, that she simply needed the right conditions to see. She was the one who stayed when no one required her to. She was the one who showed up at midnight. She was the one who carried the glass across the ocean and kept going when it broke. She was always going to be the one who rebuilt. Not because the pain was worth it, but because she was. If this story stayed with you tonight, if you have ever given everything to someone who treated your sacrifice like it was invisible, and you got up anyway, and you kept building, and you made something out of the wreckage that belonged entirely to you, this video was made for you. Share it tonight with someone who needs to be reminded that the woman they underestimated is always the most powerful person in the room. Subscribe, there are more stories coming, and every single one of them knows your name. This video is a work of fiction created with the assistance of artificial intelligence. All characters, events, and situations are entirely fictional and do not represent any real persons or true events, created for storytelling and emotional illustration.